Hello, or maybe I should say bonjour. If you visit a bistro in France, you're likely to see a chalkboard menu of simple regional fare prepared with locally grown produce. These family-run establishments offer an informal place to go for some of France's most delicious and memorable meals. Well, today I'm going to share with you some of my favorite bistro-inspired recipes, starting off with Lamb Navarin. It's a traditional hearty French stew made with tender spring lamb and seasonal vegetables. Next, the technique for creating a beautifully composed Niçoise salad, Salade Niçoise, brimming with Haricot Verts, pommes de terre, cherry tomatoes, briny olives, perfectly cooked hard-boiled eggs, tuna with a zesty garlic anchovy dressing. Then the quintessential French sandwich, a Croque Monsieur, with prosciutto and melted Gruyere and topped with a rich bechamel. And lastly, but not leastly, Celery-Root Remoulade, a classic julienne salad with a mustardy tarragon dressing. Fresh, delicious, simple food. That's what bistro cooking is all about. Navarin of lamb gets its name from navet, the French word for turnip. The vegetables added to this traditional dish are always the season's freshest. I'm using a shoulder of lamb for this particular Navarin, about 1-inch cubes, and I'm seasoning them right in this bowl with freshly ground black pepper and coarse salt. And you want to toss it nicely with your fingers. Every piece should have a little bit of seasoning on it. And now in a pan, in the casserole in which we're going to cook the Navarin, brown the meat on all sides. And have at the ready 2 medium onions peeled and finely chopped, 3 cloves of garlic, flour, white wine, whole canned tomatoes, and some beef stock. Rarely do you go into a restaurant these days and find a Navarin of lamb, so making it at home will certainly be a big treat for your family. Do not rush the browning process. You can turn the heat up real high, you might burn the meat. It takes time to caramelize the exterior of those little cubes, but it makes a much prettier dish if the meat is brown. Most commercial American lamb comes from the West, primarily Colorado and California. These lambs are fed a mix of grass and grain, which produces rich, well-marbled meat with mild taste and tender texture. A lot of the imported lamb that we find is grass-fed, and they tend to have a stronger, more gamey flavor and are generally leaner and smaller lambs. And see, it's taking on a nice color now. And as soon as this batch is brown enough, just remove it to a tray and add some more. I think there's enough juice in the bottom of the pan so that you don't have to add any more oil. But add your onions. Your heat should be sort of on medium. Your garlic. You'll need 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. That's the thickener for the gravy. Just sprinkle your flour. Cook a little bit just to get the raw taste of the flour. That raw taste has to dissipate. 1 cup of dry white wine, and whatever bits are still on the bottom of the pan, they will loosen with the liquid. It smells so good. And already this is thickening. 2 cups of beef stock. 1 cup of canned, peeled, and seeded tomatoes. Add 1 bay leaf, 1 tablespoon of rosemary that's finely chopped, and 1 tablespoon of thyme leaves. Well, that's it. I think we're ready to add our lamb back into the pot. Careful not to splatter. So there. With very little ado, we have the basis for our Navarin of lamb. Bring this to a boil. Reduce the heat to a simmer, cover, and cook for approximately 1.5 hours. So the meat's cooked for 1.5 hours. It is tender, extremely flavorful. Remove the meat with a slotted spoon and then strain the gravy. There will be little pieces of tomato and onion and herbs in the meat, but that's okay. If the sauce is too thin, you can reduce it over a high heat. Just let it boil a little bit. This sauce looks absolutely perfect. So I'm going to just put this right into the strainer and let it get smooth. It smells utterly delightful. And now you can put the meat back into the enamel cast iron. And you're going to want to really strain this sauce. You can push it through with a rubber scraper or a spoon. So you can press through as much of the solid as you can in a period of time you have. There, that's good. And that's really scrape the bottom of the strainer. Always scrape the bottom. That's where so much of the good stuff is. Add the rest of the gravy. It's very, very smooth now. And it's time to add the vegetables. We have turnips. Turn this on to sort of medium-low. Add your beautiful white turnips, which are peeled and quartered. Your 4 ounces of pearl onions, which are peeled so beautifully. And to speed up the peeling of the onions, you can blanch them really quickly for about 30 seconds to a minute in boiling water, and the skins will just sort of slide off. And then the carrots, take off all the skin. Nice white carrots. All of these are harder vegetables, and they are going to take a little bit longer to cook than the peas. That's the last thing. Bring this to a simmer, cover, and cook until the vegetables are just tender. So this is what a Navarin of lamb looks like. Make sure the turnips can be easily pierced with a fork. Same with the carrots. Yep. And we've added just about 1.5 cups of fresh peas. That's at the very end, and they cook almost instantaneously. That is a gorgeous Navarin. And to serve, you can, of course, use egg noodles, nice bright golden egg noodles, or just the stew by itself. Make sure to get a little bit of everything. That is a hearty dish. Now, wouldn't you like to sit down to that tonight? Your dinner guests will think you went to cooking school in France. Enjoy. A la Niçoise is a French phrase that refers to the cuisine surrounding the Mediterranean city of Nice. Salade Niçoise is a colorful composed salad that highlights the freshest produce and seafood on the French Riviera. It is one of my favorite salads for summertime entertaining. First, bring a big pot of salted water to a boil. That's for your Haricot Verts. If they're in season, they are superb in this salad. Another thing that Salade Niçoise has in it is hard-boiled eggs. So put, 8 eggs in a pot and bring those eggs to a boil. The dressing for Salade Niçoise is very delicious. Squeeze 2 lemons into a bowl. You could use a white wine vinegar, like a champagne vinegar, but I like the taste of the lemon. It's very, very fresh and nice. Okay, so now a nice large spoon of Dijon mustard, 1 shallot, finely chopped. Stir this around. 1 tablespoon of capers. These are just the small little caper berries. And 2 teaspoons of anchovy paste. And if someone says, oh, don't put anchovies in, I hate anchovies, sneak it in anyway, they never know. And drizzle in very, very good olive oil, whisking so you get a nice, creamy, thick consistency. And that's 2/3 of a cup of olive oil. Now, doesn't that look great? That is an emulsification. Beautiful oil suspended in liquid. A little bit of salt and some freshly ground pepper. For our salad dressings, I love grinding the pepper right at the last minute. So there. And now all you have to do is get everything else ready. Put the beans right into the salted water. and have a bowl of iced water ready. This is a bowl of ice into which I put a strainer. I can then take the beans and shock them in the cold water. The beans, look how brilliant green they turn. And we have another pot of water boiling, and this is for our little red bliss potatoes. Watch these carefully because they cook quickly, and you want them creamy but not overdone. And when you hear or read the word blanching, that involves very briefly cooking the vegetables in boiling water to just a step or two beyond raw, preventing discoloration and retaining the vitamins. Get those right into the iced water. Immersing this into the iced water stops the cooking. Otherwise, I'll just keep cooking and cooking. So now as the eggs boil, cover and turn off the heat. Set your timer for 12 to 13 minutes, and you'll have eggs that are nicely done. So now the potatoes, they're done. They should be cut in half for the salad. So add about 2 teaspoons of dry vermouth. That's a secret of French potato salad. Sprinkle with some salt and pepper. Just let them sit for a few minutes in that vermouth. Now the string beans, once they are drained and dried on a towel, just sprinkle them with Japanese rice vinegar. Adds a very nice flavor. And then we have our yellow cherry tomatoes, our red cherry tomatoes, and these should have a little bit of that mustardy vinaigrette. By dressing these individually, you don't have to worry about them being tossed in a great big salad. It's a nice way to flavor each and every ingredient in the salad niçoise. So that's that. So the potatoes can now also be tossed with a little bit of that salad dressing. There. Okay. Now the lettuce, I'm using red French lettuce. It's so beautiful, washed and dried. And this should be tossed with some of the dressing also. At the very last minute, we want to coat each of the leaves. Now, this is one of the eggs, and you can get a good glimpse of a well-cooked hard-boiled egg. The yolk has no green around it. The center of the yolk is nice and creamy, almost moist. That's a beautiful egg. So great. Now, arrange your lettuce on the platter. And this one is for 6 or 8 people. So now start building your string beans. And you can be fussy and try to get all string beans facing in one direction. Our wonderful eggs. Now this is the canned tuna that is preserved in olive oil. It comes in great big chunks, and it is a very nice chunky tuna that each serving should get. Your yellow tomatoes and red tomatoes. Oh, this is going to brighten things up. And now the olives get sprinkled randomly here and there. And beautiful potatoes mounded right in the center of our salad. And so, a little bit of a French sea salt, of course, and a little bit more ground pepper. When you bite into this salad, it just might transport you to Nice in the south of France. Salade niçoise, enjoy. Found all over France today, the Croque Monsieur, referred to simply as a croque, has countless recipes and many, many variations. The one that I'm going to show you how to make today incorporates a bechamel, a ham and cheese sandwich, and a little bit of fine herbe de Provence. Very easy to make and very delicious. So first melt a tablespoon of butter with 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And we're going to make the bechamel first. It'll be ready. Cook the flour in the butter, just to get the raw flour taste away. And have 1 cup of whole milk simmering on the stove. That is your liquid for the bechamel. And a 1/2 cup of Gruyere. Add the boiling milk and stir or whisk. use a whisk to get a nice smooth bechamel. As soon as this comes to a boil, it will thicken, and then you can add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and some grated Gruyere cheese. And the flavoring for a bechamel is fresh nutmeg, freshly grated nutmeg. I love the flavor of nutmeg. So just a little bit. Wonderful. Half a cup of grated Gruyere. Use the best quality cheese you can find. For these Croque Monsieur, if you want a real authenticity, go to a good cheese store and get some really good cheese. So that's your bechamel. Okay, so now to compose the sandwiches themselves. I've very lightly toasted 8 slices of big fat baguette, and I will spread a little bit of mustard on the bread. Not too much, but just a little bit for flavor. And of course, you must use a French mustard. You want an authentic bistro menu, use a nice plain Dijon mustard. So there, so not too much. And put a little bit of beautiful ham on your sandwich. This is a prosciutto cotto, and this is the jambon royal. So I'm not going to mix the hams. I think they're so beautiful this way. And be generous with the ham. You want this to be a tasty sandwich. So each sandwich has about an ounce of good ham on it. And now some Gruyere cheese. This goes right on top of the ham. That's about 2 tablespoons on each sandwich. Basically a real fancy grilled cheese and ham sandwich. And topped with the other mustardy piece of toast. Real crunchy, real good. And now top each with some bechamel. About 1/4 cup of bechamel per sandwich. This is great brunch food. If you're going to have a brunch, make a big green salad and a Croque Monsieur. Just about right. Use your little spatula. Just spread it neatly over the top of the bread. No grilled cheese sandwich you've ever had tastes this good. A little bit more Gruyere cheese on top. And preheat your oven to 400 degrees. These are going to bake in the oven 15 minutes. Now, this is the herbe de Provence, just a little bit right on top. This little mixture, which you can buy anywhere in the south of France, is an assortment of dried herbs said to reflect those most commonly used in southern France. It contains basil, fennel seed, lavender, marjoram, rosemary, sage, summer savory, and thyme. You can use it for seasoning meats, but here we're just using that little tiny bit to be evocative of the south of France. So get this into your 400-degree oven, 15 minutes. Don't those look superb? And they smell really, really good. I want this one. Serve your Croque Monsieur with some cornichons. Those are the sour French gherkins, and a glass of dry white wine. This is certain to be devoured quickly. Enjoy. How many of you have just walked by these in the grocery store wondering, what is that ugly, ugly duckling? Well, it is a celery root, celeriac in French. It is considered the ugly duckling of the vegetable world, but its wonderful flavor is reminiscent of celery and parsley, and it will win you over. One of its classic uses is in a remoulade, a mayonnaise-based sauce made with mustard, capers, cornichons, which are those sour little pickles, and herbs. And you have to peel a celery root like this, a celeriac, and I just use a good sharp knife to cut down to the beautiful white flesh, taking away all the black. Sort of looks a little bit brain-like when you get into the interior of a celery root. I grow these, and they really have to stay in the garden until after the first frost. And then they can be picked when they are really tender and flavorful. Whoever figured out how to make this into a tasty remoulade should be congratulated, but it is amazing. There. It's really worth it. See how pretty? And it does smell just like hearts of celery. Now use a mandolin, and we're going to slice this as thinly as possible on the mandolin. We tried using the julienne tool, but it just is a little bit too thick to make a beautiful julienne. So I slice them into rounds like this, and then cut the rounds into julienne. Very thin as the slices are thick. Now you can do this early in the day, and you can keep this vegetable, the slices, in an acidulated water. But I find that making it immediately works very well. So let me show you how to make the dressing. The juice of 1 lemon. Now, if a lemon has these points on the stem end and on the bottom, just cut those points off. I find that if you do that and use one of these juicers, you will get more juice out of the lemon. Little tricks like that save money, save time. You get all the juice out. You get more pressure on the lemon. There. And to the lemon juice, 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. You can make your own mayonnaise, or you can buy a good quality mayonnaise. 1/4 cup of creme fraiche. That is the French sour cream. You can chop up very finely 12 cornichons. Those are the sour gherkins. Cornichons. 1 teaspoon of chopped fresh tarragon. 1 teaspoon of chopped capers, those salty little caper berries, and a tablespoon of chopped parsley. So that's basically the ingredients for a remoulade. And don't forget a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, some salt, I would say approximately 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and a good pinch of black pepper. You can just stir in your julienne celeriac. Refrigerate. This has to be served really cold. Once you make this delicious salad, you will make it again and again and again. Now to serve celery root remoulade, make a little bed of a soft lettuce, like a limestone lettuce or a Bibb lettuce or a Boston lettuce, and serve your celery remoulade right on top. And you have a salad worthy of any bistro anywhere, but especially in France. I think you'll enjoy celery remoulade. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Cooking School. Blanch 1½ pounds of haricot vert until crisp tender, about 5 minutes. Transfer to an ice bath. Drain and pat dry. Whisk together 4 teaspoons Dijon mustard, 2 teaspoons Grainy mustard, and 2 tablespoons white wine vinegar. Whisk in 6 tablespoons olive oil until emulsified. Toss together haricot vert, 1/2 a small red onion chopped, and vinaigrette. Season with salt and pepper and serve.